Evening, folks. What's going on? Tonight, we're going to talk about a serious topic. We have a lot of fun here on Brother J Gaming. We watch videos, I make videos, we talk about all kinds of fun, interesting things, and generally do what we can to get away from the humdrum of daily life and all the stress and anxiety and the things that bother us. And that's something a lot of gamers have to deal with. That's what everybody has to deal with. People who go to work, people who raise children, people who just try to get through life day by day. They have to deal with stress and anxiety and depression. But not everybody has to deal with emotional abuse. Not everybody has a family member who gives them a lifetime of uncalled for and unjustified shit. If you're one of those people, then I'm one of those people too. As long as I can remember, I've had somebody in my family that takes everything out on me. Every time they have a bad day, every time they get bad news, every time they get liquored up, I'm the guy that catches the shit at the bottom of the hill. Because as we all know, shit rolls downhill. From simply saying hello, I have encountered worlds of shit from the age of 5. Possibly sooner, but I don't remember much of my life before I was 5 years old. In fact, I'm getting to the point now remembering anything before 10 is a problem. That could be related to how much I used to drink. Could be related to some of the drugs I did back in my days of experimenting. Who knows? It could just be old age. Could be something that everybody goes through. I don't know. I haven't been around that long. I turned 35 on the 9th of June, which was, at this point, 4 days. I'm recording this at midnight on June the 13th, so 4 days ago I turned 35. I'd say last night I got opened up on by somebody that had no business opening up on me. Somebody threatening to out me, to beat my ass, to forcibly remove me from my home. And why? Because I didn't have the money to go buy them weed and drive out to a city 2.5 hours away to meet them, collect money from the purchase, and then drive home, all on half a tank of gas, which right now I don't even have the money to put gas in my car. I'd like to just say that this somebody was some random stranger or, just some friend that I don't really care about, but no. This is a member of my own family. Someone I'm supposed to trust. Somebody I'm supposed to count on. Somebody who's supposed to understand that when I say I am broke, it doesn't mean, oh, I'm holding back $1,000 in cash just to fuck with you. It means I am broke. If you have somebody like this in your family, then you and I have something in common. And I feel for you. Because I've put up with this shit my entire fucking life. And this fucker seems to think that I'm still 10 years old and that he can just trample all over me because he's having a bad day. Ooh. He thinks he can beat my ass just because he's having a bad day. He thinks he can abuse me like I'm 10 years old and I have to take it. Do I? Well, yeah, actually I do. You know why? Because to knock his teeth out would be like beating up a cripple. And that's just something you don't do. How bad is it when you have to put up with bullshit and abuse from somebody who can barely walk, who can barely function, barely has teeth in his fucking skull? But he can talk shit to you. He can threaten you, your life, your family, just because he's related to you. Wow. That shit doesn't fly, buddy. That shit doesn't fly, and it shouldn't fly. Not for me, not for anybody. No one has the right to do that to their own flesh and blood. And yet, my story's not unique. This kind of thing happens all the time. There's plenty of abusive assholes to go around in this world. Plenty of people who don't even think with their head. They're great. Oh, they're fantastic. They can twist your words around. They can imply meanings into everything. They can come up with any excuse to make you miserable. If you don't have somebody like that, either somebody you just know, or somebody you're related to, or that you know somebody like that, hey, lucky you. Lucky you. You got out easy. That's cool. I'm happy for you. But don't you forget, not everybody has that. Not everybody has that. When you think about how many people in America alone, just America, we're not talking UK or Australia or Germany or Zimbabwe. We're not talking about it. We're just talking about America. Because right now America is the neurosis capital of the planet. There are so many depressed, anxious, stressed, crazy mofos out there. You got all these people who are autistic, both in the modern definition and the original definition. And people will come up with all kinds of excuses for that, like, oh, vaccinations, oh, radio transmissions, oh, microwaves, oh, the dryer, the washer, the pills I took when I was pregnant, daddy had some irradiated sperm. I mean, they'll come up with any kind of justification for that. But they always leave out trauma. Trauma. Mental trauma. Emotional trauma. The things that the original definition of autism covered explicitly. Because nobody was autistic without having first been abused. Usually during their forming years, formative years, formation years. Pick a word. There's plenty to choose from. So during their formative years, they were abused, traumatized, stomped on, dropped on their head, yelled at, just generally mistreated. So that kind of thing happened to them. In fact, most neuroses and psychoses are caused by childhood trauma. They're too young to have say, PTSD, so we have to call it something else. Now me, when I was real little, I had attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity. I still have it. As a little kid, I babbled a lot because my brain was always running. In fact, it still is. And I still babble a lot. I can talk for hours on end when I'm in the mood. Generally, these days, I'm not in the mood to talk. And why? Well, it has to do with people having fucked with me my whole life. Not just my relative, but other people too. You see, whether it actually makes a difference or not, I'm a short guy. Short guys always get picked on. I'm also a guy with a pleasant personality. You know, I'm what you would call mild-mannered, gentle-natured. You know, I mean, the stuff you see in these videos, that's me as a gamer. And as a gamer, I'm in my element. I can let my real self come out. You know, that part of me which most people don't get to see in public. And why? Because I don't trust people. I don't trust them. I'm not comfortable around them. Because I kind of expect that everybody I meet is going to try to take advantage of me. And why shouldn't I? After all, you just saw some rather nasty text messages from somebody in my own family who's pulled this kind of shit my whole life. Every idea I've ever had shot down in flames or derided. You know, every accomplishment treated like absolute crap. Twisted around many times. It's like, oh yeah, you know, I've done nothing noteworthy. Which is, of course, complete bullshit. But try telling that to somebody who's been beaten down and has no self-worth, who has no self-value, who doesn't give a shit about themselves because they've had somebody stomping on their self-esteem. Every time they'd get an up, this person would cut their legs out from under them. And then whenever they complained, oh, you know, you've just got a persecution complex. Haha, I'm better than you. That's essentially what they're saying. Oh, well, you know, I get to abuse you because I'm better than you. I lived in the 60s and the 70s when things were so different and there was a pecking order. You know, bullying doesn't exist. I hate that shit. No, bullying does exist. Yes, there is a pecking order. It's what complete strangers do. When you meet somebody for the first time, men will just instinctively size each other up. You know, we check each other out just real briefly and say, okay, I could take that guy, or, you know, whatever. Women analyze each other. You know, I'm prettier than her, or I hate her, or, you know, we're on par with each other, let's be friends, that kind of thing. It's an instinctual thing. It's something none of us have control over. The subconscious controls this aspect of human psyche. So, as a result, a pecking order becomes established. Sometimes the guy that sizes up the other guy and says, I can take him, decides to try to act on that. And thus, say bullying occurs. Typically, if a fight occurs, everything gets settled then and there. And if the other dude stands up for himself, then hey, you know, win or lose, he gets respect just for standing up for himself. You know, that's established. Those who don't keep getting picked on. And around your own age group, that sort of thing is to be expected. But This is a discussion on domestic. Domestic. People living in your own house. People in your own family. And I'm not really talking about brothers and sisters, because, once again, that's around your own age group. But when it escalates to being people like mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts and grandparents and the grand siblings, well, now you're talking about people who are your elders, people who have a position of authority by age and relation. And then that's where things become nasty, because they know they have the authority. So, in a society where you are taught to obey authority, to respect authority, and growing up and authority abuses you, then you grow up having no respect for authority. You have absolutely zero acclamation to being able to follow orders. I mean, the person that you are supposed to be recognizing as an authority has to have a very specific mentality. You know, they can't order you to do stuff because instinctually, because of what you've gone through, you will resist. Because stomping on a child and trampling their feelings and dominating them creates a rebellious adult who has extreme difficulty socializing, holding down a job, expressing themselves, coming up with creative ideas, and of course, overall shyness. Because they're afraid that anything they do to contribute, anything they suggest, is just going to be summarily dismissed, derided, or ignored, in some level of negative fashion. Now, some of these people turn to drugs to help cope with that. And for some people it works. Some people can actually get away with that kind of thing. Some people turn to drinking. Some people turn to radical lifestyles. Doing things that go against the establishment, against the norm. And some people take up smoking. And wearing unusual hats. I'm one of those people. I recognize the necessity of authority. I like order. It is preferable to chaos. But when it comes to me personally being able to respect authority and follow authority, I have a lot of difficulty doing that. And it's because of what I was put through. I already had abandonment issues. And even though my mother and I have since made up and, gotten to a comfortable place with one another, there's no denying what happened when I was less than 5, before I was adopted by my grandparents and brought to live with them for the majority of my life. I haven't lived with them all my life. This, truth be told, is the 3rd time I've lived in their house. I have traveled many places. I have been all over the United States. I've lived in 4 different states. I've been in hundreds of cities. I have been in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, swimming, sailing. I've been around, I've done a lot. I have a lot that I can offer somebody, because not only have I seen a lot of Western Hemisphere at least. But I've also picked up a variety of information and trivia and skills and knowledge, you know, because the person that I'm talking about did do me a mixed bag. I learned how to analyze things, to critically think about stuff. You know, I generally don't toss out my take on a situation, half because I expect to be put down for it, but on the other half because I don't want to be put down for it. So I think it through, and I do not contribute until I have the best possible analysis I can conceive of. So as a result, it's made me extremely intelligent and given me a very strong sense of self-preservation. But it's detrimented me because I don't have the ambition, I don't have the audacity that is required to move up the ladder and to establish a sort of, I don't know, gravitas. We'll pick a word that sounds right and go with it. You know, my vocabulary is immense. Like I said, I have a lot of trivia stored up in my head, a lot of useful facts, a lot of information. You know, if you are dying and bleeding out, I know how to save you. So, that's just one example. I can fix your computer. I can fix your car. I can manage your office. I can rewire your closet. I can trace wires from this light socket in your house to the other end of the house. I'm a jack of all trades, and I have a master of a few. And the one mastery I do have is gaming, because that has been my escape from the shitstorm that is my life. Now, a lot of people would be like, but Jay, you have a comfortable life. You don't really have a whole lot of bills to pay. You don't have a mortgage. You don't have child support. You don't have alimony. I mean, you're doing pretty good. You know, yeah. But what people don't understand is that's stuff I wanted. Maybe not the alimony and child support, but you should kind of see what I'm trying to say. I wanted that normal life. I didn't want to spend 90% of my life in my room, and so I traveled. And I traveled to the point that I finally settled down, took root where I'm from, my hometown, and tried to make a go of it. I went after a degree. I got my bachelor's in information systems security. That turned out to be a complete waste of time, but at least I have a degree. I met some people. I don't talk to those people anymore, and, you know, it's through complete lack of effort. Because in my world, the only reason you have friends is for them to use you. That's what abuse has taught me. That's what having my self-esteem torn down every single year periodically has done. I'm going to die old and alone, with the exception of Sue, who won't let that happen. And with the exception of people like you, because I've chosen, in my spare time, to share what there is of my life with you by making these videos and playing these games and trying to entertain you and trying to appreciate the value of my own life in doing so, because I really don't have much else. I'm going for another degree right now. You know, I would really like to become a plant operator or process technician, something that I can have a career with, that I can support myself with. You know, have my own little apartment somewhere, buy a new car every 7 to 8 years, stuff like that. Things that by now, by 35, I should already have. Things that people normally have by the age of 25, 10 years younger than I am now. And instead, I'm following in his footsteps. Because instead of laboring to teach me the error of his ways, to make me a better man than him and his brother, he decided to drag me down with him. He decided to drag me down with him. And that's a story that I don't have unique. There's a lot of people out there. A lot of people with the same situation and worse. People who, instead of putting up with having someone 20 years older than them plant their foot on their chest in the backyard, they have people that cave in their eye sockets, break their ribs, cut them, burn them, brand them with scars that never heal, just because they're having a bad day. When someone's bad day ruins the life of another person in their own family, and they don't give a shit, they're that selfish, they're a worthless human being. They're a pathetic animal. Because to turn on your own family is a damn shame. It's a damn shame. Especially when that family knows what you've done. That family has forgiven you. And you keep doing it. That family keeps forgiving you, giving you more chances. And you're too goddamn blind to see what you're doing. You're too weak to control yourself. You won't seek help. You won't try to change yourself. You resort to extortion and blackmail and threatening of your own kin. Because there comes a point when a human being becomes so beaten down, so weary of the endless conflict and drama, that they don't try anymore. They forfeit their own life. They live either as just a shell, or they take themselves out. I've spent the last 10 years of my life thinking of the various ways of taking myself out. I've thought of the most painful, the most quick, the most horrific, the most calm and casual ways of just dying, and I gave myself anxiety, like nearly crippling anxiety, which took about 5 years to get out of, and even then it still hangs on to me. I have anxiety to the point of where a negative interaction clenches my chest and puts me on the threshold of cardiac arrest. That is how bad I do not want negativity in my life. My body tries to kill itself. But to somebody who can't take no for an answer, who has to have everything their way, they don't give a shit. If I were to die tomorrow, I might get maybe 2 or 3 days of positive mention. And then I'd just be another corpse gathering dust in the ground. That may be true, that may not be true. But that's how I feel about it. That's how little I value my own life and my own impact on those around me. And even though I know somewhere in my mind that that's just a bunch of bullshit, that's what people in my place have to put up with. That sense of self-worth is gone. It doesn't exist. There is no self-worth. Which makes me just like the person that abuses me. Because if they actually valued themselves, they'd set a better example. They would be an example of things that you want to be. They'd have a reason to be so prideful and arrogant, so brash and unconcerned with how their words and actions affect those around them. They'd have a reason. They'd have justification. Hey, you're really successful. You know what? Can't say shit. You're right. I'm a worthless piece of shit. I am the underbelly of a toad. You got it. You know, I tried to live up to your example. I couldn't do it. You know, I'm a failure. Hey, makes sense. But when you have somebody who is a failure getting pissed at you for not being a failure, that's something different. That's something really different. But if they're in a position of authority, they're an elder, somebody who's older than you, you know, related in some way to your father or grandparents, well, guess what? You gotta take that shit at face value. Whether it's true or not, whether they call you worthless and you really aren't or not, you gotta take that at face value, because that's just the way humankind works. Mankind has always placed the elder over the younger, which is kind of silly because they say children are our future, but it makes sense when you consider without the elders, where will the children learn the lessons of life? So if your role model has no self-esteem and continually beats down your self-esteem, what do you have in your life to value? For me, I could find 100 things about myself that's worth liking. You know, I can find 100 things about myself that's worth living for. But unless I'm actually thinking about it, I don't feel it. You know, I really don't. Because growing up, I was taught to be a servant, to be a whipping post, you know, to be the piss boy. Somebody with no right to his own feelings and his own opinions and blah blah blah, wah, right? But that's how I grew up. That's why I'll never be a CEO. I wasn't taught to consider myself above anybody else. I was taught to consider myself to be the lowest one can possibly be. I wish I was the only one. But no, there's millions out there. Millions just like me. People who could have been something great, something awesome. You know, they could have really been shining stars. But instead, because of some dickbag asshole, they'll never be much of anything. Some fucknut who failed a couple of times in life and just gave up, went out of their way to destroy the life of somebody else instead of being their hero. And that's what emotional abuse is all about. You know, people like to assume it just happens to women. But no, it happens to men too. It starts with boys. You know, just emasculating a child, embarrassing a child, dehumanizing a child. And the older you get, you just keep doing it. For whatever reason. Just keep doing it. That child's gonna grow up and either become a complete sociopath or a completely servile loser who will throw himself away. But hey, at least you felt better, right? You out there who abuse people, pick on children, act like you're something special because you can hurt people's feelings and make threats and extort and blackmail. You felt good. It made you feel so much better just doing that to somebody. Somebody to trust you. Somebody that looks up to you. You're a fucking genius, aren't you? You didn't get anywhere in life. You're gonna make sure nobody else does if you have anything to say about it. Is that how it is? Yeah, I guess it is. So in either a week from now, or 2 weeks from now, or 5 days from now, 7 days from now, who fucking knows? I should expect to be outed to my own grandparents. That's gonna be funny as hell.